Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Psychedelic here. Kicking off this week with a new video, apparently. Didn't know it was going to happen, but excuse me while I'm in my professional attire. It's just hot as balls today, so gotta keep cool inside while we do this, and I like to turn the air conditioner off while I do these because, get that low end in the mix, as people might say, but something cool kind of happened yesterday. So I guess it kind of started out as a bum trip, and then it became a good trip. A nice healing road trip I took. And we will get into the nitty gritty here. So yeah, yesterday was an interesting day. I didn't really have any crazy plans, but the previous day, Friday, I spotted a marketplace listing on Facebook. Someone was selling off their collection of like 300 records, supposedly. And a rare occasion happened where they listed psych rock in the mix and even showed some cool photos of what they had, and really well done listing on there. Prompted me to go the next day, yesterday morning, so went down there at the designated time, 8:30, and I probably should know this by now, being in the game for so long, but the early bird catches the worm. I got there a little before 8:30 because, well, the one place I usually go to get money out, the ATM was down, so that didn't help matters. And so I got money a little late somewhere else nearby, and I would have got there a little sooner, but I guess 300 records flew out of my possession. Except for like a couple of tubs. There were 2 tubs left of records, and the few psych rock, quote unquote, were left in the box yet, but they're pretty rough shape. There was like a Blues Magoos, Crow Music, if you guys know that record, and Underground Sunshine. Some cool cheapies, but nothing I really needed. And they're selling them off for pretty good prices as far as I could tell on their listing, but I was kind of bummed out after that. I kind of wanted to see what else was in stock, if there's any cool jazz, because it looked like a pretty diverse style of genres in the pile on the photos listed. But yeah, she said everybody came early and scrounged them up. So yeah, didn't have any success there. But then I thought to myself, well, what can we do for the rest of the day? So I went down to in between Omaha and Lincoln. There's a little rural spot just off the interstate called Ashland, Nebraska. Supposedly it said there was like a thrift store there. Had never been to that one before. It was called Spare Closet. And it even says on their sign, records and collectibles. So I'm like, well, if they put it on their sign, they must curating plenty of records or something, to my knowledge. I don't know, going in blind, but I arrived there about, I want to say 10 a.m. yesterday, and they were closed. And I looked at some of the online reviews, and it sounded like this person's not open all the time, so it's kind of one of those things where, call for an appointment type of deal, perhaps. But once I got to meet him, I did go in there eventually. I'll get to that, but I'll continue with my story, though. So then I just, since it was closed, I was still kind of bummed out. Decided to head over to Omaha. It was like a half-hour drive, and just decided to hit up some other cool shops I'd never been to before. I can't remember the name of all of them. I even called to some different thrift stores to see if they had records beforehand, instead of having to drive 20 minutes for no reason. And there was one place I went to. It was really dusty. They just throw all these records in the back room, and that's always usually the way you can strike some gold, if you just kind of scrounge through the back door places, where people just like throw 45s in a box with no care at all. Those are usually, I get pretty good scores out of those kind of places, I feel like, compared to like, real clean cut, organized bins. I don't know if you guys feel the same way about that. But I mean, they had some interesting titles, but yeah, they were beat to hell. I mean, there was a Mono Moby Grape with the finger. Just not, I don't know how much they were, but I'm assuming they were like $1 a piece. Just totally torched. Sly Stone records. I spotted what was it? The Crying Shames, Scratch in the Sky. I found that one. It was like in the shrink, but disc had a few issues, so I had to Discogs a few like private press things. Turned out to be nothing. So I left there empty-handed as well after spending like nearly 2 hours digging. Like past experience, I had to kind of be careful because in those type of dirty, dusty, moldy places, I did get some bacterial infection, but I was careful this time. I tried not to exhaust myself and just take my time looking in there because it was getting pretty hot that day too. You know, in those kind of, it was almost like a barn-like type of structure. It wasn't a barn, but it was kind of like a really old wooden garage type of structure. So those places can get hot in minutes. Doesn't take long. But I know I haven't shown any records yet, but I'm just trying to unfold the story here. So I just decided to break down and go back to Grapefruit Records, and I did pick up one. So I'll be sharing that here. And this was one that I was happy picking up on. And this is Speed, Glue, and Shinky with the album Eve. This is a repress on Phoenix label. Unofficial. So I was a little sketchy picking this up, but the price was right. Took a chance on it. Sound quality is not the greatest, but considering its rarity, I'm never going to pick up an original, so I'm like, you know, we'll give this a shot. Got the lyrical gatefold here. This came out in maybe 70, 71, around there. I hadn't listened to this band in quite a while. I am a fan of Shinky. I do like his guitar playing, but some of the stuff gets overly bluesy for my taste, and this one is kind of a good example of that. But the more I listened to it on my way back home, I'm like, this has a kind of a cool appeal to it. You know, it's very hard-edged blues rock, but done in a sort of fashion where it's not American sounding, it's not, you know, European R&B type of thing. It's just strictly Japanese blues rock, and they have kind of a neat twist to it, you know, with a lot of feedback and certain techniques going throughout. So it makes for an interesting listen, but I probably won't spin this a whole lot, but there are some very stoned out tracks on here. Stoned Out of My Mind for a track, Big Headed Woman, Mr. Walking Drugstore Man. The first three tracks really settle you into the mood of this record. But yeah, this is pretty stoked to own this overall though. I mean, the price was really good on this, so just couldn't leave it behind, and I'm glad I stopped in. So get a shot of the Phoenix label here. So yeah, whenever you see this label around, it's, you know, you kind of have to be a little skeptical on it. Don't just assume it's going to be a great quality pressing, but I've heard worse. You know, I've definitely heard worse quality pressings, but given the quality of the music for what it is, I'm okay with it. So still really glad I scooped it up. And then later on I went to a couple different thrift stores, the Imaginarium Superstore, and I actually picked up the Alien Replica movie poster. Can't argue that it's one of the best, you know, science fiction horror films ever made, man. The fact that came out in 79, some of those visual effects blow me away to this day, you know, being, you know, nearly 50 years old, getting there. But yeah, amazing movie. Up there with like The Thing for me. I always wanted a poster of The Thing, but I saw that and I was like, I can't leave it behind. It's also a very good price, about 20 bucks, so I was like, I'm taking this. Looks exactly like the original movie poster too, so. But carrying on with my day, so I kind of drove around to a few different spots in Omaha, just leisurely going along my merry way. And I figured to myself, well, instead of taking the interstate back, let's go through Ashland, Nebraska again, see if that store is open. Whew. I'm so glad I went back, man. They were open, and this was probably about, I want to say 2 p.m. in the afternoon yesterday, and blazing hot out. I figured going into the store it was going to be kind of musty and also very humid inside, and it wasn't too bad. They had air conditioning, but I had a few complaints about the store. It's not the owner's fault, but it's just the way the store is kind of set up for a small space. Lots of records. I mean, they had record bins So many record bins to look through. It took me about 2 hours to look through every nook and cranny in that place, and it was a pretty tight spot. There was different events going on through town, like the farmers market, stuff like that. So a lot of people were dropping in. It's always funny to me, like hearing normal people like comment about like records, like, oh, records, oh my god, they got more records, wow, I wish I had my old turntable. It's just kind of funny just listening to common people just be so enthused about records, and then some of the artists they name, I'm kind of like, wow, I wish you had better taste. Found some great stuff in this shop regardless. So as far as like the prices go, it's a little all over the place. Like, I found some really awesome deals, which are the ones I picked up on, but also some that were kind of typical records, but were going for like over $100, which I didn't really understand that mythology, but it was a good day overall. So I really came out with one that's a keeper, and I'll start off with this one. But some of the stuff I found, I'll show some photos here if I can. I would have took more photos, but I was kind of on a time crunch and I didn't know when they were going to close. So I spotted couple copies of Vincebus Eruptum, nearly every Blue Cheer record in there, in good shape, by the way. Had almost the whole discography of Electric Prune's original pressings, mono and stereo. Count 5, I didn't pick up on that one. The disc had a few issues. As far as conditions go, they're kind of hit or miss, and you had to really look at the discs on some of these, and the ones I picked up on are pretty solid. But I also spotted Little Boy Blues, Up the Junction soundtrack, which I'll be sharing in my next video. I found a UK press of that finally. I always spot the US pressing, and I found it in this shop. I was like looking through the soundtrack section, I'm like, I bet you they have Up the Junction. Sure enough, they do for $5. The disc was pretty clean except for like one nasty mark. I was like, kind of ruined it, so I'm not going to pick it up. So yeah, disc conditions were a little hit or miss, like I said, but I'm just so surprised I found this little honey hole, outside Lincoln, outside in Omaha, and it was just hiding in, a 3,000 populated small town that a lot of people are kind of overlooking this stuff. So anyways, I'll share these here finally. So I got to get this in a different sleeve. This didn't have the correct sleeve in it, but I've been looking for this one forever, online and in person. I've never seen one in person. I feel like this used to be probably a $5 album, 30 years ago. And I finally picked up on the 5 Americans Progressions. This is on the Abnac label. Texas-based band. Kind of had some garagey roots, but as far as this album goes, they kind of sink into those sort of pop psych sounds, kind of reminiscent of Strawberry Alarm Clock in that vein. Very poppy, but a little bit of a garage, kind of a heavier edge to it. I love this record, and opening tracks, Stoplight, Black is White, Day is Night, Come On Up. There's some fantastic tracks. The single off here, Zip Code. This is a demonstration copy too. The thing about this one though, this was listed for $20, which regardless, I was still going to get it because I just never see it, It's a pretty solid copy. It's about VG. Played really well. Got a few marks, but nothing crazy. Shot of side 1 here. Yeah, so every time I see that label, I always think of 5 Americans. Might have been a few other artists on that label, I'm not sure, but yeah, $20. I was like, we'll take this out, and thankfully at the end of the day, I got a good deal on all of this, which I'll explain at the end here. But picked up on this, so I sold my old copy, and for $8, I couldn't leave this behind. Up Through the Spiral by Poe, also another Texas band on Muni. I think they had a few singles prior to this, perhaps. I shared this a long time ago. I think this is even better than my old copy. So this one might be going in for some trade as well. I mean, I do kind of regret selling it, but at the same time, I could probably live without this record. It is good. It's got some great heavy jammers on here, like Tune In. And then the title track was really kind of a catchy tune. got some good things for it, and kind of a hidden gem on Uni, you could say as well. But yeah, $8, and this is a pretty crisp copy too. You know, sleeve is probably VG, but seams are all together, and what a great deal. I'll share it to prove it. $8. And then this is probably the best deal out of all of them. About this artist, I don't know his whole backstory, but I see his records pop up all the time, and people are always talking about him. Picked up on some Bob Lind. This is, what's it called? Since There Were Circles. This is an original on Capitol. I don't know if it's typical, but this one does not have a punch out, which you don't typically see in Capitol records that haven't sold, you know. Pretty nice copy here. It does need cleaned up a little bit on the disc, but no major scratches or anything. This is the green Capitol. It's at least an early pressing. And then we got the price right here. $10. Can you believe that? This thing sells for probably 50 and up, you know, in good shape. I don't know if I'm going to keep this or not. I mean, I didn't really know his whole backstory or what his story is really. I know he's a pretty acclaimed singer-songwriter, but I listened to this, got refreshed to it, and I was like, you know, this is pretty solid. You know, it's kind of a string-oriented singer-songwriter on the folk rock side, kind of reminiscent of like Jim Sullivan. Gives me that kind of vibe. And my favorite track on here is probably Anymore. It's a really nice kind of you know, sort of a ballad-like track. Really good. So you know, considering what's at the shop waiting for me to pony up for, might have to let this go, but we'll see. It's just a hell of a find though for $10. Then the last one, kind of picked this up for just shits and giggles maybe, but maybe it sells for a little more. I paid about $7 for this. Well, with the deal at the end of the day he gave me for free, you could say, but Nebraska's own cult leader, L. Ron Hubbard. That'd be Tom Cruise's Lord and Savior. So now that I've said that, they're probably going to come after me, but yeah, Scientology dude, the man behind Battlefield Earth. He made his own little soundtrack here, Space Jazz. I think I've sampled this years ago on YouTube. I think there was only like maybe two clips online when I listened to it, and I was like, this is terrible. And I used to have another L. Ron Hubbard record. What was it? Source of Power or something. I sold that one, but yeah, I kind of like picking up weird stuff like this, you know, when you spot it. I've never seen a copy, so and I hadn't listened to this yet, so bring back all those memories for me. Just having a good laugh with this one, but yeah, I'll probably end up purging this one as well, but kind of a cool cover, you know. I dig it. Musical contents, as far as that goes, you can forget about it. However, so when I got to the desk, the front at the cashier, yeah, so it kind of seems like a thing where he's open on weekends only, kind of keeping the shop open with cash only. And thankfully I had enough cash that I took out from the ATM that morning for these records. So yeah, overall, you know, it was $7, $8, 20 for the 5 Americans, and then 10 for Bob Lind. I said, are you pretty firm on these prices, or can you negotiate a little bit? Gave me a deal of $30. So pretty solid deal. Way better than I was expecting, and I came out a happy man that day. I was like, I am coming back here to this spare closet. Coming out of the closet to come to the spare closet. Well, anyways, guys, that about wraps it up. Yeah, if you ever happen to be in Ashland on a Saturday afternoon, check the shop out. And I will definitely be doing an update perhaps this week. I also have another open mic this Wednesday. And I'm also kind of in the works of something else at this bar. that I perform at, so stay tuned if anything lifts from that. You'll also be seeing a different kind of video as well, so just stay tuned. That's all I can say as of right now. Let me know what you think of my finds, and have a good rest of the week.